Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalie Kashani, and I'm a women's transformational coach. I help women heal with their toxic relationships with themselves, and it's a great pleasure to be on this platform this morning, the Whole Health Project. There's been some amazing practitioners that I've been loving seeing on here, and I'm so blessed to be part of this. So, today I would like to speak to you about our cognition, about our patterns of thinking, and our biases, and what we can do about our overthinking. I know that we're living in a very specific, strange time at the moment. And for many of us, it kind of forces us to get more quiet. And sometimes we are in a place where we are slowing everything down, and many things come up to the surface. If you like this talk, this is a free talk, but you would like to donate, you can donate on PayPal, recommended at $8, and all of the information for my transformational coaching is also in the information below. Now, for anybody watching in the Whole Health group, I am now taking free discovery calls for anyone who is interested in seeking more coaching and support during this time. If you would like to do the free discovery call, I've also added some of the links for that, so you can see who I am, what I do, and how I can maybe facilitate your growth or transformation at the moment. All right, we've got 4 people watching. Let's get going. So we're going to discuss patterns of thinking. Have you been stressed out? Have you been in loops of overthinking? Have you been watching all kinds of things in social media and have been confused and all of these opinions floating around? Have you been in financial fear? Have you been in a place where you're too close with somebody you actually love, but it's like a little bit too overwhelming, and you're just in your head all the time? Well, this is what we're going to be discussing today, and this topic is going to be based more around neuroscience of the brain, and then we're going to talk more about the spiritual aspects and the questions we can ask ourselves, and together with an abstract meditation to get us back aligned into our center. So, what is cognition? Cognition is basically our patterns of thinking. Each one of us has a different pattern of thinking. It might be negative thinking, a pattern of negative thinking. And the way our cognition is formed is by the way we grew up, through our education, through the way we see our society, through trauma, through experiences both negative and positive. And sometimes our patterns of thinking are actually in the way for us to be more centered and more responsive. And we can be in a place of reaction because we're in a place of assumption and creating more story. So the patterns of thinking play an enormous role in creating, exacerbating, and prolonging the symptoms of trauma, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, and other disorders of extreme stress. Everyone experiences negative thoughts, but when they become predominant and we have no ability to control them, then they create problems where problems might not exist, and they make the existing ones even worse. So what we want to do is we want to basically create a framework of understanding and hold an awareness to what our cognition is and what our patterns of thinking are, in order to then not overanalyze, not to overanalyze, and then to be able to create a awareness and then be able to witness our thoughts from the outside and be able to be more responsive. So in order to do this, it is really quite interesting to start talking about cognitive biases. So one of our cognitive biases, which can get us into a loop of thinking, is attentional bias. An attentional bias is a system of thinking that biases attention toward the negative stimulus in any given environment. Here's an example of attentional bias. You have just been invited to a party. It's a great mood. You love the host. There's 10 people there. You come in and you are wearing this beautiful shirt that you just bought that is way too expensive, but you've bought it for this event and you want to kind of show it off. And you're at this party, you're being introduced by the host to all these great people. 2 people comment very positively about your beautiful shirt and how beautiful you are. And all of a sudden, you're speaking to somebody and they say to you, "Did you buy this shirt at Salvation Army?" And all of a sudden, you basically react, maybe not outwardly to that person in that moment. Maybe you freeze, but you pack up your stuff and you leave without saying goodbye to the host. You then have a behavioral pattern of thinking and you go home and you eat too many chips and you're like, "Oh, screw this guy for saying this about my shirt. I don't like people in general." And you keep stuffing your face. And you actually had the attentional symptom of just negatively getting your attention onto this one person that said that comment. That was your attention, and there was dramatization that was created in a loop of thinking from that situation. There were 9 other people there. There were 2 people that commented on your shirt, and you could have had an amazing time. But sometimes we choose to focus our attention on something negative so that we can create the addiction and the cycle of thoughts back into our pattern, and to confirm that we are in self-pity or maybe in a victim situation. So there's some other biases, like interpretational biases, that have to do with projecting onto others. It has to do with personalizing, meaning that you think that everything is about you, or the negative comments have been about you, or you're always in bad luck. And there's also polarization, which means that you have very, very black and white thinking. So things are either this or they are that. But you're kind of confused about where the gray zone is. So when it comes to interpretational biases, it is put down into 3 different categories. And in my course, I usually speak more in depth about these things. It's called attributional biases, computational biases, which is about our hard drive and the way it's set up, and there are confirmation biases. The computational biases are really focusing about the direct interpretational errors that occur as a result of cognitive distortion. Again, cognitive distortion means that we are not basing things on reality, and we start creating stories in our head to try and solidify an idea that we have created. So that can come in the form of selective abstract thinking, maximization, where we tend to exaggerate a situation even though it was very factual and simple, or we can also minimize a situation and draw back from something, which is also called denial. So these are all forms of how we can experience our reality in a very, very warped way, because our thinking and our own cognition is set on this pattern. Confirmation biases is the interpretation of negative events and negative beliefs, statements, and behaviors of others as a confirmation that my negative beliefs are accurate, right? And so again, this has to do with overgeneralization. You could say all green people are bad in conversation. And then every time you see a green person, you're like, no, I'm not going to be talking to that green person because I already know and I've confirmed and I've overgeneralized that all green people are bad at conversation. So that's how that works. How do we start understanding our cognitive distortion? And here, a good friend of mine actually had a very good idea of how to look at our own cognitive distortion. And here we can ask ourselves, how can we take our own mind to court? So if we stop thinking from this personalized format, but we can start witnessing our own mind as if we would take our own mind to court. What could we start asking ourselves when a stimulus occurs? So something happens and the response that is driven towards that stimulus. Here I would like to basically give you another example. Let's say Daniel didn't respond to your text message in 24 hours. Let's say Daniel is somebody you've spent some time with or you've been dating, and all of a sudden you draw a conclusion that he is not as interested in you than you are in him. The fact here is that Daniel just received some bad news that his mother or somebody in his family has stage 3 cancer. So you've started creating all of these assumptions in your head that Daniel doesn't care about you and it's over, but actually something factually really happened in Daniel's world. And so you have to question yourself, if you needed 48 hours of space to process a difficult situation, does that mean that you actually stop caring for someone else? And so here is where we can take a simple situation like this and we can start diagnosing it and thinking about not much at all, really. It's just about stimulus, what is factual, staying in that truth, and just being responsive. So how can we take our mind to court? Here are some questions you can ask yourself that you are not stuck in all or nothing thinking, mental filtering, magical thinking, catastrophizing, emotional reasoning, labeling, and personalization. You can start reframing and reparenting yourself from this stimulus and how you're able to respond. The thing is creating all of these stories in our heads make us actually get out of the moment. But here, it's a beautiful opportunity. Every time you are overthinking, you can say, wait a minute, what is the stimulus, which is the factual event that happened? What is my response? And what are my biases? So here are some of the things that we can start reframing and interpreting our negative components of the picture to create a more balanced and centered approach. What you can ask yourself, you could be sitting there and, you start overthinking and having like all of these feelings and jittery feelings about assumptions that haven't even happened yet, things that are in the future. You can ask yourself, what is my negative thought and feeling? Again, you have to draw in breath and calmness into all the questions you ask yourself. You can ask yourself, what is this type of distortion that I have? Have I put my perception in the wrong attention? Have I overthought? Have I created story around this specific stimulus? What is my behavioral response in the moment? Did I stuff myself with chips, and did I drink too much wine? Did I not call the host back? Did I burn the shirt that was commented on? So just think about these things, and then you can ask yourself, do I have an addiction to unhealthy, reminiscent response to perceived negative interactions? Is my perception of negative events a symptom of my addiction to self-pity and victimization? And how do I start taking responsibility for events that are seemingly beyond my control? It's really important we start asking ourselves what we really do have control over. And to be honest with you, it's not much, except for the responsibility of our own perception of the experience that we are having. So to end this, please remember a very, very important sentence. Our responsibility is our perception of all our experiences. So we have the responsibility to tame our thoughts and really start creating a center where we start really understanding stimulus and response. This overthinking loop can really, really, really be stopped with this specific abstract meditation, which I have planned here for you. If you have more questions around overthinking, and if you would like to discuss a little bit further, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I now have free discovery calls for anybody here on the Whole Health Project. And we can discuss if you would like some coaching around this matter. Because overthinking leads to fear, and it leads to stress, and it leads to your own immune system being down. And, you know, it's really important that we re-energize ourselves, and actually through our center, so we can be present in our lives. This is a very, very beautiful opportunity to shut that brain down and live more from our truth. So this abstract meditation for today is really about cutting away the stories. Cutting away the stories and creating a point of concentration. So you can either do this with open eyes, where you look at something in the distance, or you close your eyes and you focus in a spot in your body. I sometimes focus on this area right here or in here, which makes me feel like this is a centered concentration focal point. And when the music starts, you keep trying to focus on that very one point, but try to move your body. And what that does, it creates a malleability around the stimulus and the response, and really sets you back in the moment. Instead of having to be very, very tense, we start to really tense up when we have stress around a certain subject which starts going out of control in our own cognition. So this is really about getting the focus back and really focusing on this point, but getting ourselves into a space where we are out of control of thinking, but more in our bodies. So this abstract meditation can be done to any type of song. Again, any song that gets you into a state of transcendence and lightness. And it's a really, really beautiful thing to do. So let's get started. So you can focus on a point of the stimulus being just a moment of an event that happens, without holding on and controlling that event, but just letting go and breathing with it. Again, this is an open eye or closed eye meditation. So I'm going to pick a random song, and so, okay, for today I'm going to pick Re by Nils Fram, and I'm going to be posting this song so that you can have the experience, or maybe do it again when you're feeling like you're overthinking. All right, I hope you can hear it. Let's start with 3 deep breaths. Inhale. Focus. of the community here. Inhale up and exhale. Last time, inhale and exhale. All right, so we just did parts of the song. It's really just showing you an example of how we can get back into just stimulus and response and start understanding the framework of our own cognition, our patterns of thinking, where we focus our attention, and how we can start going from distorted thinking and creating stories that haven't even existed yet to just factual stimulus and our own response. If you, again, would like to have a free discovery call with me, I have put my information down here. If you want to contribute a little bit, that would be awesome. You can make your contribution on PayPal. Otherwise, it's a gift. And I am Natalie Kashani. I'm a transformational coach. And it would be lovely to speak with you if anybody is having some crazy time with overthinking. Please don't hesitate to contact me, and we can schedule even a 15-minute SOS call if you really feel like you're in a space where your thoughts are taking over and you are in fear. So that is now open to you for anybody on this group. And I wish everybody a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you so much for the Whole Health Project in getting me to be present here. And I wish everybody a lovely, lovely day.